Welcome to the worldwide headquarters and studios of All Duke Sports Talk, where all Duquesne sports fans can unabashedly and fully indulge in everything Duquesne University sports. So, without further ado, let's get to it. And let's go Dukes!
Hey, Dukes Nation. Welcome back to All Dukes Sports Talk, your home for all things Duquesne athletics. I am Bob Healy III, as usual. I am joined by Nick Frost and Rudy Longarini, and our guest this week is none other than the Bluff Blog. You know him as the captain of Twitter, Johnny Heller, probably the biggest Duquesne sports fan, particularly men's basketball, more so than maybe even all of us combined, and that's saying a lot. Johnny Heller joins us. Johnny, how the hell are you, man? Nice to see you.
I'm doing well. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm just excited after yesterday's win. That's the game I care about most every season. So just happy to get a win and be inside now because the weather's crappy. But
When you say the game you care about the most, is that because you have some sort of special animosity to our friends up north at St.
yeah,
Bonaventure?
they're my least favorite. Probably in any sport, they're my least favorite team. I've hated them since I was probably 7 or 8. So I just I hope we can get the sweep this year, but I'm happy if we can split. But yeah, no, I do not like them. I will root against them against any team.
So, Johnny, our first show, we went around and talked about how we all became Duquesne sports fans. And so, since you're joining us for the first time, why don't you give us your backstory, how you became a fan of the Dukes?
So I started attending games probably when I was around 5 or 6 with my dad. He graduated from Duquesne in 1970. My grandfather also graduated from Duquesne, so I started going to games around then. And then I was a ball boy for men's basketball from probably like 7 or 8 until I was 13 or 14. So just really got super into it and have kind of stuck with it. It's been my number one sports team since I was a little kid, just Duquesne and the Steelers. So Duquesne men's basketball mostly. But yeah, and then
Well,
I was a manager for the men's basketball team as well when I was in school. So
without giving away your full age, who were the head coaches there when you were the ball boy?
the first coach when I was a ball boy was Scott Edgar. Uh, then it transitioned to Darrell Porter there for a few years, and then Danny Nee. Uh, so it was a lot of futility and
A lot of mediocrity.
I think mediocrity might be too fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad basketball, but I mean, when Ron Everhart came in, it started getting better. Then we went back way back down with Ferry, but thankfully
Yeah.
thankfully we're on steady footing now at least. So
Well, the bad times for Drew Joyce seemed to last exactly 6 games as the Dukes went 0-6 to start the season. And Johnny, I know I speak for a lot of us in Dukes Nation who were, we were pro Drew Joyce, obviously, but we were very concerned about such a rough start. And they've gone 9-3 since. So the Dukes have pulled back to 500 at 9-9. Can you give us your preliminary thoughts, Johnny, just so far through 18 games of the Drew Joyce era, how you feel about the job he's done?
I think he's done like a really tremendous job just after those first 6 games, like I think pretty much everybody thought they were dead in the water for the season. I know I did. Uh, but they didn't really have an identity. He was kind of mixing and matching lineups, but they found an identity now. Just, they're unselfish. They play tough defense. They're playing the aggressor every week. So I've been really pleased with that. He has a young coaching staff who's doing a really good job, and they're really recruiting well. Um, so I'm just very happy. If you would have told me this time last month they'd be 9-9 and in second place in the league, I would have thought you were crazy. It should be institutionalized, but yeah, here we are. It's nice. It's nice to be here again, and we're not even at full strength. So
Yeah.
just got to keep plugging away and not
Yeah,
take the foot off the gas.
yeah, I'm with you, man. Thank you. It is nice to be able to have some nice things to talk about. Speaking of, we really want to keep talking Duquesne athletics here on All Duke Sports Talk. Right now we're volunteers on here. That includes Rudy and Nick and myself, and then Johnny joining us as a guest. But those of us who have been doing it full time, basically since the start, we're doing it out of passion. But we want to put more into the show. We're in search for sponsors, and one way we can do that, of course, to build the audience is if you like and subscribe to All Duke Sports Talk. So please do follow us by hitting the subscribe button, by liking the video, by sharing it. Any traffic helps. And if you're looking to possibly sponsor, you can reach me at healy971@duq.edu. That's HEALY 971@duq.edu. Tell your friends, it's a really fun time to be following Duquesne sports. We started this, it was Rudy's idea. Started as Rudy, myself, and BB Flannery. BB's become a regular guest, but since the first show, we moved into Nick Frost as more availability. Nick has joined us as the other regular co-host, and the three of us want to continue to do this show, but we need your help. We need your traffic, right? We need you to spread the word. So like and subscribe, please, and share, and we'll keep bringing you all this great sports talk about Duquesne athletics. So let's get right down to how men's basketball has been recently, just to catch everybody up. So we mentioned they're 9-9 overall. Johnny mentioned 4-1 in the conference. That is good for a second place tie. George Mason a half game ahead of VCU, St. Louis, and the Dukes, standing at 5-1. George Mason. The Dukes 9-9 overall seem to be like a misfit among Mason, VCU, and St. Louis, who are 14-5, 14-4, and 11-7 overall. But behind Duquesne is Bonnie's at 15-4, Rhode Island at 14-4. All these teams up near the top of the conference had a relatively good non-conference schedule. The Dukes struggled early, as we talked about, but have really turned it on. And guys, the teams they're beating at the top of the standings have had these great non-conference portions of their schedule. They're handing losses to teams that haven't lost a lot this year. So to catch everybody up recently, the Dukes, of course, won on Saturday, January 18th. That was yesterday, as we record usually on Sundays. Today's the 19th. By a score of 75-57 over Bonaventure, which dropped them to 15-4 on the season. Before that, the Dukes were at George Washington and had won 73-65. And for me, guys, that was a really important win because that was their first road conference win of the year.
Right.
George Washington has fallen now to 13-5 overall. So they're handing out losses to teams that hadn't had a lot of losses. We hadn't had a chance to recap the George Washington or the Bonaventure games. I'll go to Nick first. And Nick, your thoughts on yesterday's game against St. Bonaventure, where they really took care of business?
Yeah, the first thought I had when I was watching the game, a few rows back from Johnny actually, was that I think they really figured out the rotation. It seems like everybody had a role that they understood and played to the best of their abilities. It really did seem like a perfect team balanced game. The biggest surprise or emergence, I guess is the better word, this past week was Maximus Edwards. He had the revenge game against GW and then just came up firing against the Bonnies. Silenced
I called it, by the way. I called it. I called it.
You did. You didn't want to give up
it?
on him. Yeah, you did.
But yeah, I can speak for myself, and I'm sure Johnny will mention it. There was a decent amount of Bonnie fans there. They were loud. It was nice to shut them up. And it was really nice to hear the Let's Go Dukes chant ending the game.
So Maximus Edwards puts up 17 points in just 17 minutes against the Bonnies. And before that, in his homecoming at George Washington, Max Edwards booed coming off the bench, right? Playing against his former team in his former building. And I watched that game. I was not able to watch today's game. I taped it. I'm going to watch it back. But I did watch, not today's game, yesterday's game rather, excuse me. But I did watch live on TV the game at George Washington. Edwards came in and lit it up. He had 17 minutes again that game, but he scored 22 points. And if memory serves, guys, in his first 3 or 4 minutes off the bench, he'd already put up 8 or 9 points or something. He was 8 for 10 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3. He was awesome. He was awesome, and the team really needed it. There was a moment where Kareem Rozier broke free, and he had an easy layup, right? I don't know if you guys remember this play, and Rozier pulled up and lobbed it in the air for Edwards on the alley-oop slam. Kareem giving up those 2 points. for Edwards to have him, and drive an exclamation point home in his homecoming. I actually messaged with Kareem after the game. I'm kind of friendly with Kareem, and he's one of my majors. And I said, boy, it's great to see Max Edwards bust out. And he said, yeah, we really need him to be that for us. And so they're very happy for Max Edwards to do that, not just for the team, but to do it, to George Washington. So, yeah, Nick, great stuff out of Edwards. Johnny, thoughts on Edwards before I go to Rudy?
He was due for a breakout. I mean, I think when they had him in the lineup, I believe to start the season, I think he was kind of forcing it. That Princeton game, I believe he was 0 of 10.
Yeah, he was forcing it.
Yeah, he was forcing it. So I think bringing him off the bench was the right move, and getting Cam Crawford into the lineup. He's like a microwave coming off the bench.
Right, you're exactly right. I was going to say
Yeah.
that. The analogy, there used to be a basketball player, professional basketball player, I think he played for the 76ers, used to be called the microwave because he used to come off the bench and he used to be electric. And that's what this guy is. In little time, he comes in and scorches it, man. So, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
It wasn't
Yeah,
Derek Alston, was it? He played for the 76ers.
No. It was a guard, a shooting guard.
Lou Williams, I think, is who you're thinking of.
Yeah,
He was
the microwave.
Sixth man of the year for I don't know how many teams.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he just comes in and gives them an instant jolt, like he's when he gets the ball in his hands there in the corner, he's pulling up. And he's so big that he can get a shot up at any time. He's 6'5". He's probably he's got to be close to 230, 240. I mean, he's like a tight end. If he can add in being able to back down like smaller guards in the paint, he's going to be pretty unstoppable, and I'm pretty sure they're going to get that out of him. But just getting him to contribute's been the biggest factor over the last two games. He really took the air out of St. Bonaventure yesterday.
Rudy, what did you see in Edwards that made you believe in him? I mean, he was struggling, and we all saw it. He came in here with a lot of hype, and then he just was a turnover machine. And he was getting starts and he was getting minutes until he finally got benched, and then things turned around for us. So then all of a sudden, though, with DeMichael out, with Net just nursing an injury, he needed playing time, minutes become available. Here comes Edwards, and he just totally capitalizes on the opportunity. What did you see out of him, Rudy, that made you think he was going to come through eventually?
Well, accordingly, we're giving credit to Edwards. Man, you got to give some major compliments to Drew. Dude, he's turned it around, man. He's found the formula. The thing is that this class of players that we got, they're all new players, man. Transfer protocol, and from the very beginning, people have said on the board and I said that this has been, across the board, the most physical and the most athletic, the most best guys overall that we could have gotten. And so we had to be patient. We had to find out what the hot hand were, and put those guys and ride those guys when they're in there. And Drew has stuck to it, has not wavered, and has really taken this thing out of the dumpster. I have to admit it. And so yeah, Edwards is I called it. I said, we have to be patient with this guy. We're going to need this guy down the road somewhere, sometime. And it has come to fruition the last two games. And what I like about it is that he comes off the bench and, he's prepared to shoot it. And so, yeah, maybe he comes off the bench in the future. Maybe he doesn't. But I don't think it matters. I think that the overall thing that has come out the last 3 or 4 games is this is a team. Okay, the team has elevated itself. Okay, whereas before it would be 2 or 3 people. Like last year, if Clark had a bad game, if Day Day had a bad game, if Dixon had a bad game, we were gonna suffer. But Drew is picking the hot hand when it's available to him, and he's pushing all the right buttons. So yeah, I got to give a major shout out to Maximus. Are you not pleased?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? That's a good call.
Are you not entertained?
He's the
Which is
gladiator.
from the movie, right?
I like
Or
it.
something. I don't know.
Yeah, I like
So,
it. Oh, by the way, so my old man who's over my house to watch our backup team, the Bills, play the Ravens later, he pointed out to me, Bob Muscles Healy, PA State Golden Gloves Hall of Famer, fighter and manager. He just pointed out it's Vinnie Johnson. That was the microwave for the Bad Boy Pistons. His nickname was the microwave, Vinnie Johnson. He's actually here to bring our podcast.
Vinnie Johnson. Right.
But I'm with you. Yeah, Rudy, it's his athleticism was noticeable. His body type is noticeable. And guys were telling me who are in practice that this guy can jump through the arena. He's the best guy in practice when they scrimmage each other, when it's, one-on-ones or ones versus ones, they're doing pickup games. He's the best player on the court. We just weren't seeing it, and we didn't get to watch him night in and night out like George Washington did. And when he went to George Washington and got booed, it kind of reminded me of like a really good player coming home to the city where he used to play in. And the fans boo not because they hate the guy, they just hate seeing him in another uniform. It's like when Yager would come back and the Penguins fans would boo.
Right.
We never hated Yager. We just hated seeing him in another jersey. But good for Max to do that, in his old home arena, and good on guys like Kareem and Dave Dixon, who have been the leaders from day one, who have stuck with this, through the hard times that they went through last year and through the early part of this year. That leadership has been very evident just based on results and based on the depth we're seeing. An update, by the way, to because this is something else we had to talk about, guys. Jake DeMichael has not returned yet. I've seen Jake in class. He doesn't have any, he seems fine. I actually asked Jake, because he's one of my students now, and I say, hey, how's the foot? He goes, fine, I'll be back, but he's not back. So he must be having setbacks. I'm starting to wonder, guys, with the emergence of Max Edwards, with the minutes we're getting out of other guys, with Matus Ronsky and not just doing what they're supposed to do for us. Do we just redshirt DeMichael? Does the team redshirt DeMichael? Because a medical redshirt, he would still qualify for at this point. You can get 5 years out of him now to play in these 4 seasons. I'm sure they'd love to have the guy, but I'm curious, Nick, what do you think about a possibility there? They've got to be considering that.
Yeah, I think they did have a flare up. Drew Joyce told some of the A10 Talk reporter for Duquesne, and I think Abby from the Post Gazette before the game, that he did have a flare up, and that's the reason why I think he was seen in a walking boot yesterday.
Right.
So I don't think it's necessarily guided based off of everybody else's performance. It's more so if he's healthy and can contribute, I think they're still going to put him in, because this team is good enough to make a run in the A10 tournament, just like last year's team. But if his health isn't there and he's not ready to gear up before the A10 tournament, you're not going to try and fit somebody in to that rotation and possibly mess things up during that single game elimination tournament style. So
Right.
I think it's going to be more so just whether there's another flare up, whether he's able to be back and good for a longer period of time is going to control whether that red shirt happens or not. It wouldn't be the worst thing from a Duquesne fan perspective. We'd still be able to get a few more seasons of DeMichael. But if he's healthy, he could just take this team to a whole nother level again. It can't be a bad thing to add his winning plays and tough defense that he helped the team reach that new level last year.
Well, it seems to me like DeMichael's the kind of guy who's, as a former walk-on who earned a scholarship, who's local to Pittsburgh, and who's a good student. He had a 4.0 GPA this fall, and I'm not revealing anything I shouldn't. That's public knowledge. That was part of the VP of Athletics honor roll that Duquesne recently published. He had a 4.0. He seems like the kind of guy that's probably going to stay at Duquesne. So you redshirt him, you invest in your future, you keep him around. He's probably one of those guys that's going to be here for 5 years. But Johnny, do they need him to win this year?
I think I would give like a cutoff date. So like I had heard it was going to be 2 weeks for him, but I'd give him like a cutoff date around like the 15th of February. If you can get him in somewhere between the first week and the third week of February, maybe reintegrate him in there. But like Nick said, I mean, if you're going to try to fit him in right before the tournament, when guys are already into the roles, I think at that point it's beneficial just for the red shirt because, like you said, he's a Duquesne guy. He's not like a lot of these other guys that you don't want to redshirt them even if you get 2 weeks out of them because they're going to leave anyways. Like
Right.
he's gonna be here. He's not leaving. So I think if you get him back between the 1st and the 15th, then you play him. If not, I would put the red shirt on him.
Well, the Dukes may or may not get another game in before this episode drops. So our man Rudy, who's in charge of video for us, has been relatively quick, not to jinx them. But the Dukes have a quick turnaround. So this may drop before Duquesne plays at home again against Dayton at 7 p.m. I wouldn't expect DeMichael then, of course. And then they don't play until the 26th. That's a Sunday at Fordham at noon. So we'll probably have 2 more Duquesne games to talk about when we record next week. Again, Dayton on Tuesday at 7 p.m. That's a home game at UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse. And then they travel to the Bronx to play at Fordham. That game's on USA Network. To catch the game Tuesday, just go to the arena or watch on ESPN+. But that arena, I got to give credit, guys. The fans turned out for the Red Out. I saw
Well,
Max
yeah,
Edwards,
dude.
big head in the audience.
I want to mention that from now on, we're going to be featuring the Cooper Fieldhouse in the background. So, yeah, make note of that. I want to ask you something, because I'm not privy to going to the Cooper Fieldhouse, okay? But every time that I look at that place on screen on ESPN, dude, it is the nicest facility arena for basketball that I've seen in the Atlantic 10. And for the size, okay, it just looks fantastic. And I'm curious, what is your experience? I mean, how come you guys don't talk it up? Because I haven't experienced it. So I can't say anything. But what can you tell me? Because, now they got the huge screens, which I think is fantastic as far as I'm concerned, because I'm into video, right? But
I love it. I'm really impressed, Rudy. I when it opened, I went to the grand opening tour with my family, and we loved it. Because I know Johnny and Nick, we've all been to the Palumbo Center, and I thought that was a cool, intimate place to watch a basketball game. But this place is much more comfortable. It's much more decked out with all those bells and whistles Rudy's talking about. I think when that place gets packed, and there aren't many games where the upper seats, opposite the home, opposite the team benches, those rarely get filled. Bonaventure and Dayton travel pretty well. So Tuesday, I would expect Dayton fans to be up there again. But when that place does at least fill there in the lower bowl, if you will, I think it's a fantastic college basketball atmosphere. And since I didn't go to the Red Out game, Johnny, you were there. Tell us about, you said it was a really good atmosphere. I'm curious how the students did and how the student section turned out.
It was probably their best of the year since the Lipscomb game.
The opener.
Yeah. So they were on their feet. It was a good student crowd. I mean, the corners there were still kind of empty. Nick could probably say that. But they had a good turnout. When they get the kids out, they got to win these big games. So hopefully they can get a turnout for Tuesday. With the weather, I don't know how many kids are going to come out with it being -20 wind chill, but it's a good challenge to get these kids out, do something to get them in the arena, because the arena is built in such a way that if you can have that end of the floor packed, it's a hard place for other teams to win because it can get really, really loud. So I mean, they got to find a way to get the student involvement consistent at Duquesne because it could really give a big home court advantage.
Nick, that's always been a problem, hasn't it? Getting students engaged.
Definitely. I mean, the big thing about the red out was the students actually stayed the entirety of the game. That's usually been a big issue too, where they do these promos and then the students leave after halftime, after the promo kind of part is over. They stuck around. They were loud. It helps that they were incentivized for 2 missed free throws. They were chanting, "We want free fries," every time Bonnies were at the free throw line. And I mean, that's great. I mean, the Sixers are known for that with their Wendy's chicken nuggets. If they get 2 missed free throws from an opposing team, I thought that was a great idea. If they can keep that up, that brings our team to a whole new level too. They even mentioned it in the post game that this energized the team. They were ready to go from the get-go because of that and with how many people were there. Coach Burt joined me in the second half, and he mentioned that he just couldn't get over how big that crowd was and how into it they were. The Netchis block on the attempted dunk by one of the Bonnies players, it might just be me. I'm biased to loving defense more than offense, but man, that play was unbelievable. And the Ronski dunk after the steal, those two.
Yeah, that was a magnificent play. That when he dove on the court and gave a perfect pass.
Sean Corbett, yeah.
Yeah, my God.
So,
yes.
Nick, are we on the same text thread by chance? Are you on that text thread that I'm on? Okay, because I might be a different. You're not the only one who's told me that. I don't have everyone's name on it, but that was the best block some people said they had seen, like in person, because he had to go the length of the floor to travel back. You know, it's almost like, and this is obviously much lower stakes, but you remember LeBron going the distance to block a shot against the Warriors when the Cavs won. But he came all the way down the court and then just soared up, and it was perfectly timed. Good stuff.
Yeah. The Bonnies fans actually I saw a lot of Bonnies complaining on Twitter afterwards, which I'm sure Johnny also enjoyed as much as me. They were complaining that the Bonnies player didn't take an extra dribble before jumping up for the block. I don't think that matters. Netchis beat him to it. Simple as that. Netchis is going to be stronger than just about anybody else when he goes up for a block or a dunk. I know he's Rudy's guy being Gumby, but man, I love to see him play like that.
He's
so guys, go ahead, Johnny. I'm sorry.
Oh, Jakob, he's listed as 6'9" on the roster, which is pretty comical because he's very clearly at least 6'11", maybe even 7 foot at this point. And for a guy like him who can defend 1 through 5, it's just incredible.
Right.
Yeah,
and like I said, which I like about him, and really the new moniker for him should be unicorn. He is a unicorn. Okay, what I mean by that is, what's the guy's name from Denver Nuggets?
Porzingis was a Celtic that was on the Knicks. He was known as the unicorn, but I don't know.
Jokic, maybe.
I thought you were going to ask about what Gumby's horse's name was.
well, basically, what I'm saying is that he is like the Joker at Denver. He is a European player. He is multifaceted and can basically, he's like a jackknife. He can, he's got the tools for everything. And so, yeah, he is, like I said, a glue type person that ties everything together. I don't know if you noticed when they were passing about that one set where they passed it around the horn, I'd say 5 or 6 times before they actually got the shot. I don't know if you remember that, but I think it was Dixon got it on the inside, or maybe not. Anyway, but in the middle of that is Netchis. He is right in the middle of that every time. He doesn't settle for this last game he may have a little bit, but because he went 106 from a 3-point line. But the thing is that he doesn't settle for his shot. He always is looking to get the ball out of his hands into somebody else's hands, and making sure that that the next person is the one that's going to get the glory, not him. And that is unselfishness. That is the very meaning of being a team player, and he is what we need in that. Anyway, go ahead.
No, very, very cool to see the team gelling at this time. We last year was special. We didn't feel that it was special. I think a lot of us, right, guys, until about March, and it feels special now in mid-January, which is really cool. We know because of the rough start to the year, there's the at-large bid is gone, unfortunately. Unless they win the rest of their games, which but even then it's going to be tough. But the team has positioned itself very nicely to perhaps get a first round bye, right? A double bye rather, is the top 4 seeds, right? If I'm not mistaken. So that hasn't changed. Top 4 teams will get a double bye, and that'll make their path a lot easier. Last year, Dukes were in that middle pack, had a first round bye, and then had to win 4 games. So usually the path is double bye has a much easier, chance at the tournament championship. So remains to be seen. We could talk honestly, guys, for a whole 2 hours probably about men's basketball. That's how great it's been lately. We do want to talk about some other sports, of course. I did mention Jake DeMichael as part of the Duquesne Athletics fall 2024 academic success. The Duquesne Dukes had 403 student athletes on the VP of Athletics honor roll because they had GPAs of 3 or higher last fall. I think that merits mention, guys. I want to, not just as an academic pointing this out, I think it's really cool that all 20 of Duquesne's varsity intercollegiate teams had a GPA over 3.0. That's really amazing. So, shout out to Duquesne Athletics getting it done on the academic side. 78 student athletes had a GPA of 4 or higher. Jake DeMichael was one of them. Lucas Parasek was the other from the men's side. And then Ayanna Townsend on the women's basketball side actually had a 4.0. So I guess she's Ayanna considered to be still a member eligible for that. Okay, so let me go to the next topic for us, guys, which is going to be the women's basketball team. For women's basketball, they had a nice bounce back win today, did the women. Women's basketball for Duquesne now is sitting overall at 12-6, but more importantly, they've improved to 3-4 in the conference, thanks to today's win 77-64 over Rhode Island in the alumni game at the Cooper Fieldhouse. I got to watch that one on CBS Sports. Really impressed. The 13-point margin of victory does not actually reflect rather the actual nature of that game. The Dukes pretty much led this one. I don't know if statistically start to finish, but they dominated the game from start to finish, did the Dukes. The only reason the game was anywhere close was because they took their foot off the gas at the end, which is to be expected in a blowout. That's a nice bounce back from losing at home in a tight game against Dayton on January 15th, 80-71. Before that, we talked last show about the Dukes winning a couple of games at St. Joe's, 67-64, which was a great win, and then at George Washington, 97-55 in a blowout. Guys, I'm so torn on how to feel about the women's basketball team. They are bipolar, it seems, right? Sometimes when they win, they blow somebody out, right? They have like a couple real big, nice wins eking some out, and then they have disappointments. Like I'm expecting them to lose the next 2 or 3 now, right? Like, Nick, give me your aim on this.
Yeah, so I think the first 3 games of the conference play, they were kind of just expecting results. They really knuckled down against St. Joe's, who they know is a tougher team, and they came out victorious on the road. And then I think they kind of got satisfied again and played a little complacently. Maybe practice wasn't as intense going into that Dayton game. They blew Dayton out last year by like 40 points, so I think that was kind of part of the issue. And then, Meg's great when she turns it on late in these games to try and mount the comeback. I think they're realizing that that's not the formula to success, and they truly have to play a complete game to make sure they win these games. I think I talked to Coach Burt yesterday at the game and asked how was practice after the Dayton game. He said, good. The players that had problems with their intensity at Dayton aren't going to have those anymore. So I mean, he called out the big name players saying that they weren't playing well enough. And in the Rhode Island game, one of the big variables that I said a few weeks ago, Gabby Hutcherson came to play in the first half, and that made all the difference in the world. When one of her or Keandra Brown plays well, we're going to win more games than not. So that's really the key in my mind is Journey and Meg are going to do their thing more times than not. It's getting that big to also play well, and that's going to turn things into success. They can beat anybody. It's just a matter of making sure it's a team game from start to finish, like today.
I'm sorry, Johnny, how close you been following the ladies this year?
So it seems like every time I turn on a game on ESPN Plus, they lose. So I should probably stop watching. I didn't see the game today. But no, my favorite part of watching the women's team is just watching Rick Bell on the sidelines. He's very intense. I wish they would have a camera on him at all times. But I've been to 2 games when they've done the doubleheader with the men's team, but I haven't watched as much as I should. But it does seem like every time I turn them on, I'm kind of a bad luck charm. So did not see the game today, but glad they won.
Megan did her thing as usual. 19 points.
19 points, yeah.
9 rebounds. I was really impressed with Mackenzie Blackford and Gabby Hutcherson, although I kind of been impressed all year with those two. As Nick had mentioned on a prior episode here of All Duke Sports Talk, that the future's kind of bright, for the Dukes. They're not last year they were very senior heavy. They were relying a lot on experience. I know Gabby's a graduate student, but Mackenzie Blackford, she's a freshman,
True freshman.
True freshman. So there's a lot to like. I mean, we're gonna lose Megan McConnell, right? But Angela Matic, only a junior. Journey Kiaku is she is also only a junior. We're getting a lot back next year. Nadia Moore, if I'm not
also a true freshman.
True freshman, exactly right. So and they're getting tons of minutes. We're talking about starters, so Keandra Brown will be back next year as well, right? So Keandra Brown is only I'm sorry. Keandra Brown is a senior. She transferred.
Yeah.
Pardon.
I did talk to Bert about this as well. They're actually getting 3 incoming 6'4", 6'5" players who can run in this upcoming class, along with one of the top guards, at least scoring wise in the country, coming into the class next year. She's down in West Virginia, and she put up 52 points, and it was about halfway through the third quarter when Dan and I left the game yesterday. So we got another great point guard coming in to continue the preeminent reign of Duquesne great point guards on the women's side.
Yeah, as some of you may know, Megan McConnell is now on the Becky Hammond watch list, which is the award given out to the top mid-major Becky Hammond, watch list, which goes out to the top mid-major women's basketball player in the country. So kudos to Megan, kind of maybe an obvious one. We all know great Megan McConnell's been. I'm curious what her future is going to be like. I have a feeling she'll play in the WNBA next year. She seems to be one of those, like her brother, a basketball lifer, a basketball junkie. I can't imagine her even wanting to do anything else. So with the WNBA being a more lucrative league these days, a lot of players are going to stay in North America rather than go play in Europe, like we've seen in the past, like with a lot of Duquesne ladies going over to play in Europe. So we'll probably get to see Megan McConnell play a lot more, as a professional here in the States, which is kind of cool. Who knows? Maybe down the pike, WNBA has a Pittsburgh team. I think that'd be awesome. As a coach of girls basketball and as a big fan, I'm really looking forward to that possibility. I know that WNBA has identified Pittsburgh as a potential site, and that's all that's really been announced so far. So it is being considered. They're a league in the summer that would compete only against the Pirates, but obviously they wouldn't share facilities or anything, and PPG Paints Arena is just sitting there. And who knows, maybe UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse hosts some games, if Pittsburgh has a team one day, and, remains to be seen. But yeah, women's basketball alive and well. Saw Caitlin Clark at the Chiefs game, of course, sitting next to Taylor Swift yesterday. That was kind of cool. Kind of a big thrill for Caitlin Clark. Apparently she was a big Taylor Swift fan growing up. It's a shame they all root for the Chiefs, but so let's look at the women's basketball schedule coming up. Duquesne women's basketball will I'm sorry, I was still on the men's side. I beg your pardon. Oh, I did want to point out that the women's basketball standings. I'm sorry. So Duquesne at 3-4 now is in the middle of the pack. So women's basketball also has a situation where the top 4 teams will receive a double bye. Right now, that's Richmond at 6-1, Davidson at 5-1. Then you have George Mason, St. Joe's, Dayton, and Fordham all log jammed at 5-2, and the Dukes are on the outside in, looking outside in at 3-4. But again, I maybe it's the bad times are behind them. Maybe Coach Burt has made necessary changes, and perhaps it's all positive things in the future for the women. I'd love to see them get into the A10 tournament with a chance to really do some damage. So it starts again for them Wednesday, January 22nd at LaSalle. That game is at 11 a.m. out in Philly, probably a youth sports day or something out in Philly. And then the Dukes don't return home again until January 30th. That's the next game after LaSalle. That is a student appreciation game, a Reed Smith student appreciation game. That game's going to be on TV on Peacock, January 30th at 8 p.m. That's the next home game for the Duquesne ladies. So moving on to football, the Duquesne Dukes have signed a quarterback. His name is Tyler Soles. S-O-L-E-S. Tyler is from Los Angeles, California. He's a 6-footer. I went to a high school known as Paraclete, if I'm pronouncing it right. I reached out to Tyler on Instagram and connected with him. And it turns out Tyler, although he'll come to Duquesne, having not played college football yet, he is transferring from a community college. So Tyler says that he didn't play football at all last fall. His last season of competition was the fall of 23, where he was an outstanding high school football player. Listed at 205 pounds. This is according to ncsasports.org. It's a college recruiting website. His secondary position was a running back, so he might be coming to him as an athlete, but Duquesne is marketing him as a quarterback. Throws right-handed. His 40-yard dash time was 4.73. He benches 230, squats 520, and he has a 36-inch vertical. Seems like a pretty good athlete, especially for his size. So remains to be seen. Maybe Duquesne football is going to use a player like Tyler as one of these hybrid running back quarterback types that we see in all the NFL playoffs right now. All the teams left playing, the Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jacksons and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen's of the world. Seems to be that's the future for the quarterback position. So Tyler Soles will join the Dukes for this fall. I don't believe he's here in the spring semester as a student. I can't say that for sure. If he is, that's terrific. Maybe he's going to get some time in spring ball. So stay tuned on that one, guys. We don't know yet what Duquesne's plan is going to be at quarterback for the fall, but they have signed a quarterback from who hasn't played in college yet. So another topic we want to get to is women's golf. That's one of the Olympic sports, non-revenue sports that Duquesne boasts. Women's golf joined Duquesne for this season as its first season. And the Dukes have had some mixed results. A young lady by the name of Petrachko, and I'm sorry, guys, I seem to have lost her first name. Give me 1 second. She is a freshman. Sorry, Sasha Petrachko. She seems to be the leader of the women's golf program so far. I want to give a shout out to Sasha Petrachko. She earned A10 Rookie of the Week honors 3 times so far in this school year. 4 times, rather. She had 4 weekly awards. But it was her 3rd A10 Rookie of the Week honor. She has had 4 overall honors from the conference. That is an Atlantic 10 championship sport. So women's golf does not compete until in their conference championship event until the weekend of April 17th, which is a Thursday, and then April 18th and 19th. So those 3 days in Orlando, Florida. Until that time, the Dukes return to action February 8th for their first of this calendar year in Melbourne, Florida. Columbia will host the Columbia Classic at the Durand Golf Club. So far, again, the Dukes led by Sasha Petrachko, and Petrachko even won an individual title this fall. She was the medalist or the first place golfer at a St. Francis Red Flash invite earlier this year at the Sunahana Country Club in Westmont, PA. So cool things for women's golf. I don't know about you guys. I'm not much of a golfer. I'm not even good at mini golf. So I can't say for sure I'm an expert on golf, but if Duquesne's competing for a championship, I'm going to watch and pay attention. And it sounds like they got at least one good one there in Sasha Petrachko. So pretty cool. I want to ask for you guys' final thoughts on anything that we talked about today. I'll say for this particular time, let's at least give a final thought on men's hoops, considering how great it's been lately for the Dukes in that part of the athletics department. I'll go first. I'm very optimistic about the basketball team because I believe in the leadership. I believe in confidence being such a big deal in sports. When I saw Max Edwards play at George Washington, I saw a switch go on. I saw a light bulb go off, and I saw a confident player for the first time all year. This guy, we got to remember, he's transferring to a whole new school, right? And he's coming to a whole new program that already has a whole, new head coach. I know that Drew Joyce had been here before, but it's his first time as a head coach, and this is Max Edwards' first year on campus. And there's just so many moving pieces. I'm very happy for Max. But I'm not surprised that the leadership on the team, guys like Kareem Rozier and David Dixon, and a lot of those guys who were there last year, Chabi Barre, for example, another one of these leaders this team has, that they picked up Max, they kept him involved, and he's going to now show out for him. So very, very enthusiastic. I'm bullish on the Dukes. I'm looking forward to the next game. I got that feeling like I had last March, where I just can't wait till the next men's basketball game. Rudy, how about you, bud?
Well, I love it. Remember last week we went over the top 7
Oh yeah, we did a hierarchy on the team. He wasn't
hierarchy.
no one's
And
hierarchy.
I mentioned,
last week.
and I kind of surprised myself, but but I mentioned Rozier at the very top,
Uh-huh.
and he had 6 assists, no turnovers this past game. My computer screen just freaked out on me. So anyway,
That's Kareem being Kareem, isn't it?
yeah, and what I'm gotta say, for better or worse, we are going to be dependent on him to be his typical self. In other words, don't turn the ball over, be very efficient, okay, and hit the open shot when it gets to him. And he has played it to perfection the last 4 or 5 games. And so he is probably how we go in the future will depend on him. What kind of night he's having. And like I said before, if he's having a good night, we're going to win. If he's having a bad night, we're going to lose. So anyway,
and let's not forget his what he brings on defense as well, right?
Right,
So,
right.
Johnny, your thoughts on anything?
Just just like a kind of like a challenge just to Duquesne student body to just continue to show up and support these guys. They deserve it just with like a school like Duquesne. If you can have good men's and women's basketball programs that play in March, it just does so much more for the school and for your degree. Like kids who graduated last year and who went for interviews to join the workforce, people see on your resume you went to Duquesne. Oh, you guys beat BYU. So we should be able to do this once every few years. Make it a basketball school. Come out and support the guys because this is huge for our community as a whole. So just make it out as much as you can when you're on campus, even if it's cold. Come in and see a really good mid-major basketball game.
Nick, before I go to you, I have to say I agree so much with Johnny. You're after my own heart. As a student at Duquesne, the team is your team. It's your university, right? So, I'm lucky enough I get to teach at my alma mater, right? Couldn't be more lucky. But so many people who are staff, right, and who run the university, employees as well. We didn't go to school there. I mean, we work there. They pay us, but the students pay everybody. It's the student school. It's your team, right? So even if you're not a gigantic basketball fan, I mean, for better or for worse, sports are carrying the flag. As Johnny mentioned, you don't have to be a basketball fan, but you still benefited from all of the press and all of the good morale that team generated for the entire university. So I couldn't agree with that more. Nick, your thoughts, bud?
Yeah, and it all goes back to how we're in the shape that we are, where we could potentially see another run like last year, and that's with Drew Joyce as the coach. I know Johnny was one of the big pushers to get it done via social media, started a social media campaign essentially that we needed Drew Joyce as the hire. I can't imagine where our team would be with an outside coach hire at this point. We probably wouldn't have kept as much of the core from last year as we did. And that core is the big reason why we're continuing to have a similar identity to last year and finding that success. And again, being team first like they were last year. If we lost even two of those guys from last year's team due to the transfer portal, I don't think we have the same success this year, even if we got the same transfers coming in. I do think Drew has instilled that same consistent identity that's so important, and I think we're all proud of that identity too. It's similar to the Pittsburgh mentality of hard-nosed defense, hustle, team effort. That's how we're going to get the job done. Shout out to Drew Joyce for continuing the ship that Dan Brott left us, and let's see if we can make another run at it.
Go Drew Kane. Johnny, it's at Bluff Blog.
Yeah, I think it's at the Bluff Blog.
At the Bluff
Yeah,
Blog.
yeah.
That's where you can find Johnny on Twitter. So you St. Bonaventure people, go get him. And for us guys, please like and subscribe and share this show because we want to keep bringing this to you. We want to get even more guests. It's harder to get better than Johnny Heller, but we're going to keep trying. And if we get more traffic, we can put more even more into this show, which we really want to do. So please like, please subscribe, please share. I'm going to go watch my mistress team beat up on the Ravens. So hopefully by next week, we're talking about that AFC title game. Go Bills. Guys, shoo, shoo, rah, rah. Thanks as always. Take care.